Hello, my name is John Didi, professor of political science at the community colleges of Baltimore County. In a continuation of this series, today I am interviewing another candidate for Baltimore County Executive, Councilman Pat Young. Welcome.
Thanks, John. Happy to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Glad to do this. My first question today is why are you running for Baltimore County Executive?
Sure. So born and raised in Baltimore County. No other home. But what I've seen since serving 8 years in the legislature and also serving for the last 2.5 years in the on the Baltimore County Council, I've seen a government that doesn't necessarily put people first and doesn't put its tools to work solving problems for regular folks and regular people. Generally, and specifically, I believe in people powered government. And I believe that government should work for everyone that it represents and has a charge with providing services to and pay taxes and those that pay taxes to them. So, when I talk to people around the entire county, I know that everybody has an example or a story of having a less than positive experience engaging with county government, and I think that's partly because there's a mentality of treating folks that reach out to Baltimore County government as a adversary rather than a partner in trying to solve problems. And I want to change that and make sure that folks believe and also have the experience of interacting with a county government that wants to solve problems for them in their neighborhood and community, rather than treating them as some sort of roadblock to getting something done.
What concrete hiring and contracting reforms would you be willing to implement to make sure that county jobs and contracts are awarded fairly and with transparency, not through connections of the good old boy network? Because this is
Right.
a rich history of Baltimore County going back to Spiro Agnew.
Yeah. No. So it's a great question, and I think what there's it's a mentality that I think folks that have lived around Baltimore County recognize, and folks that move here kind of here in terms of reputation. I think standardizing practices, having a policy in place that ensures that contracts are being given out based on merit, or not given out, but earned by merit, and also that there's a clear process between who's applying for bids or applying for contracts the county has out, who's receiving those contracts, and then current folks that are currently receiving it, or somebody has a complaint about somebody that currently has a contract, that there's a clear line between an experience you've had with a contractor that works for the county, a negative experience, and then a follow up and also a response to how that negative interaction has been corrected or fixed or addressed by the government and by the folks that contract with us. So I think standardizing the process. I think one of the examples that has been put into place over the last, I'd say, 6 years, the trash haulers didn't have a standing contractor process for bid. It had been a sort of a handshake agreement. We've moved out of that so that there's actual contracts with the county, which has actually helped standardize the process for one, how they can receive more payment, or also increase the salaries to their employees, because they know that they have a solid contract on place. They don't have to just work within a particular area because they knew either their father had the same contract or had the same business, and they knew the folks in the county to do it. So I think standardizing that process makes it more transparent and makes sure that we don't get into this good old boy trap of only awarding folks benefits that might know someone in the government.
Your candidacy, one of the things you're doing that's different from a lot of other candidates is you're taking public financing. I shouldn't use the
Yes,
word
sir.
taking, but receiving public financing. Why did you decide to make this move?
So one, it sticks with my values, this idea that campaigns should be people driven. And I'd say when I ran in 2014, this is the first time it's been available to me as a candidate. For when I ran for the House of Delegates, it wasn't available. When I ran for county council, the first time, it wasn't available. But the idea of engaging with regular folks and having ownership of a campaign, I've heard from people that feel that they don't participate in politics because we're engaged with elected officials because they feel like they don't have a say or they don't have as much influence as someone else. I can only say so much about my door's always open, and I want to hear from everybody, no matter what their background, no matter what their position, no matter what their experience. But there is this, just like you had brought up in the beginning, a narrative and also a reputation for how much can someone get done if they don't somehow have influence. This idea that taking public financing gives regular people ownership of a campaign and ownership of an administration after winning an election through it. I think would make it easier to govern and also get away from that reputation that Baltimore County's received over decades of only certain people know who to go to and only certain people, or you go with folks that know who the right people to talk to are and can accomplish things. I want to create a county that has a reputation for serving everybody, and I want to start that by putting my money where my mouth is by pursuing public financing and giving people ownership of my campaign.
This dovetails a little bit into my next question as far as government and, culture change. What would be your plan to change the culture of county government from one where secrecy is a common thing? We could, I'm not going to dive into the Madigan situation or the gerrymandering, but it had a lot of backroom deal feel to it. To one, if there's more transparency, how would you get to a transparency stage for Baltimore County government?
Right. So, and they're twofold, right? Because I can work with the county council in terms of processes that they do, but also from an executive level, how county government and county departments operate. And I think that it starts from the top, from an expectation from individuals that engage with the public that I can understand as being somebody that's been in government, and I think anybody can understand from a position that they hold that there's a level of control that people want to have over either a department or over a narrative or trying to get something done when it comes to a project. The trouble is when you get into that where there's complete and utter failure to act because folks are either too afraid to take an action or they're waiting for someone to give them permission to take an action to try and solve a problem. And in some departments, it works better. In other ones, it doesn't, where there's no one to say that you can move forward with helping somebody, and they sit waiting in perpetuity, waiting for someone to give them the next step or next permission to move. Uh, I say that these actions are done internally because there's no process tied to it. And it needs to be clear about one, we put people first, but we also make sure that people are engaged and have ownership of decisions that are being made. I give the example of Reimagine Rec and Parks, which I would say that the intent was completely there, but the rollout was dropped because there was no the people that were going to be affected by it were not included from the beginning. They were sort of the county government has the role of deciding whether it's going to provide programming or whether and how it's going to spend its dollars. It made a decision based on a report that it got from a contractor and then threw it back at the public, said, this is what we're doing with no input. Then they had to backtrack and spend months explaining what the plan was and then tweaking that plan, which they would have started from the beginning, including the public, and what reimagining Rec and Parks was supposed to do and what the end state was supposed to be. There wouldn't have been that much controversy. I think it's just it. I think it's a culture change, but also a policy change. The executive has to make it a priority that if you're engaging with or changing something that affects a particular group that we're engaging with or the public, they need to be included in that conversation and that decision before a final statement's made or a final decision's made that's rolled out for everyone. And that adds to the transparency. And I think there's multiple groups out there that I'd be willing to work with that are currently active and currently engaging with the council, informing us of things that they have seen as less transparent and that they would like to see changed, and bringing them to the table and saying, what do you see as an outsider from government that we can do better? And how can we use you as somebody that one is affected by this, make it more effective and more efficient? Because changing that narrative and changing that culture and that perception of Baltimore County requires not just our leaders doing it, but also the public helping us get there as well.
One of the big economic engines in Baltimore County is CCBC, the Community Colleges Baltimore County. As county executive, what would be your commitment towards CCBC financially, et cetera?
Sure. So I can I intend to continue the Promise Scholarship, which allows for Baltimore County residents to attend CCBC after high school, uh, in many cases, cost free. I think that's one of the biggest commitments that anyone that's running for this office can make and should make. I think it's transformational in terms of the opportunity for folks that are trying to bridge between high school and a career. And even for folks that may not know exactly what they want to do, I think that there's a number, it's about 40% of high school graduates aren't attending college. And or a 4-year college, let me say that. And that's a concerning number in the sense that I think that folks are not sure from high school to the next step into a career or into an education what exactly they want to do or how to get there. And I think community college is a great opportunity to then take some time, find what you're good at, find what you're passionate about, and learn from other folks around you in a academic environment. And I think keeping that promise scholarship in place, as well as encouraging high school students and letting them know about the benefit of our CCBC campuses across the entire county, what it has for them. And they just get a chance to be exposed to the trades, to the academic side of what their future pursuits would be, and also expose them to folks that are currently in a career that they may want to pursue, and learning from them and taking example of how they started in their own careers. So I think one, financially support as we have in the past, find other opportunities that we can partner with CCBC and some of the other 4 years in Baltimore County, and support the work that you're doing across all of this county.
If you become county executive, one of the things you're going to have to inherit is the blueprint, the
Right.
money that is committed to spending on K through 12.
Yep.
What would you do to deal with that issue?
Right. So the blueprint, I was in the legislature when we were moving it forward, and the work of experts, folks that have worked in this realm forever, were the intent was there to recognize that Maryland had been recognized previously as a world-class education, first among others across the entire nation, and we had fallen behind. So the intent was to present a program that and a path forward that could get us back to the top of that list. And it only works, and many government programs only work if they're consistently funded the way that they were intended to be. And unfortunately, because of bad economic years and promises from the legislature and the state side that haven't come to fruition, the local jurisdictions end up getting stuck with the bill. I think that there's amazing opportunities that are still left in the blueprint that are still we are experiencing, and we have seen benefits from the blueprint in place. The question is about how can we adequately fund our responsibility, and I would continue to work with my colleagues in the legislature to fully fund the blueprint that they put onto local jurisdictions to keep that progress rolling. I would say that my relationships with the superintendent and the school board, and after the election, new school board members, is key to moving BCPS forward, Baltimore County Public Schools forward, because we got into I say the county got into a controversy because of contract negotiations that did not include the Baltimore County Budget Office or the County Executive's Office, and a deal had been struck between the administration, the school board, and the teachers. And then when it came to a bad economic period, the county could only put up so much. That then made BCPS have to reevaluate their contract that they had established for 3 years. Those missteps don't happen if we're all at the table and discussing and talking about how do we move forward. And those conversations consistently happen now in terms of me just reaching out, related and advocating for my schools in District 1. But also, I plan to implement that same sort of conversation in open table related to how BCPS educates our kids, how we move forward with trying to implement parts of the blueprint that we can afford. And one, if state funding does not adequately fund from year to year that we were intending to fund the blueprint, how we can work with BCPS to fund the pieces that are actively working to educate our kids and move them forward and increase our success rates, how we can continue to advocate for those while recognizing that there are other pieces that need to be funded by the state and other resources.
One of the biggest problems for Baltimore County is a decrease in population over the last few years. How do you get those people back and bring people into the county? And if you want to touch a little bit on one of the things that often does that is economic development.
So, yeah, and I will say this, and this is just a context wise too. There is an expectation that after the 2030 census, the last census was done during COVID. It's still concerning that any jurisdiction had a decrease. But I say this, that people do want to move here. People do want to live here. The problem is that folks need to find an affordable place to live, or whether it's affordable place or just a place to live in general, because we are having a crisis when it comes to a housing stock, and driving prices up across the entire county. So there is a need. I would say that I haven't found running into new people every day that have moved here from other areas, see houses going up for sale and then being off the market within a week. So there is a want to be here. It's just a matter of being able to identify and provide more opportunities for housing that folks can live here. And when we talk about economic activity, I think that part of that housing piece can be accomplished with some of the tools that I believe Johnny Oshevsky had tried to put into place with his housing legislation, but also the council put into place with our mixed use overlays. We have great opportunities on the southwest side, but also across the entire county. Security Square Mall has in the next 10 to 15 years, I believe is going to be a model for how we can redevelop particular areas around the entire county that have fallen into neglect or just have not been activated to benefit the surrounding area. I was able during the CCMP process to be one of the first to utilize a mixed use overlay on the properties across the street from the Security Square Mall property, which would allow for a vision of Baltimore County government being successful with a private-public partnership to build a mixed-use community that was envisioned by the community and participated in the process of what could happen next. And when they see one positive changes on that property across the street, being able to take advantage of that because there's a mixed-use overlay. In terms of attracting folks back, I will say that always focusing on schools and the quality of our education attracts folks to any jurisdiction. Um, and the reason I put that caveat in is because people do want to move here. People do want to live in Baltimore County. It's a matter of finding where and where is it affordable. And they move other places because they just can't find the right place or they don't have as many options within their price range. Uh, but I would say consistently actively working with our school system to make sure that our schools are providing opportunities for families, economic development in our historic economic corridors like Route 40, York Road, Pulaski Highway, even Liberty Road, and focusing there where there's the proper zoning for redevelopment, and activating a new approach to how we engage community members with our economic corridors and how we utilize zoning in an effective way to uh, provide those areas with things that are missing and not playing a passive role as a county when it comes to community planning and county planning.
The next question is this. Who would you see as your model as a county executive? We've had a variety of county executives in our history. Who would you
Right.
see as the model you would like to emulate parts of?
Yeah, that's that's a great question. Who would I model parts of? I mean, I don't know, I think I'm a new brand. I mean, I am younger than some of the folks in the race, and I'm aware of our previous county executives. Had an opportunity to get to know Johnny O very well when he was here. I appreciated his focus on taking a step in the right direction for trying to change culture in Baltimore County government, um, focusing on transparency. I mean, you had brought up we didn't go into the weeds on the IG, but the fact that we have this reputation for not doing things above board and creating an IG office that now can help one get rid of that reputation, but also hold folks accountable across all of government. I appreciate his focus on transparency. County Executive Kamenetz, I respect him. One, I wasn't able to benefit from it, but as a student that went to BC, Baltimore County Public Schools for elementary school and middle school, only one of my schools had air conditioning and is focused on infrastructure related to our schools. We're going to reap the benefits for that for decades to come, and I appreciate his focus on that. And I mean, I would say even Jim Smith's being coined as a Renaissance man because his focus on Dundalk and his area of trying to revitalize that area. I know you asked for one. These are the folks that I know and that were in my lifetime as an adult, living in the county and recognizing changes that I've seen. Uh, Being able to take from all those three, at least, from focusing on our school infrastructures, making sure that we're meeting the needs of the population that currently lives here, focusing on economic corridors and historic economic engines and communities that we can then revitalize and build up with outside the box thinking, and also committing to transparency and changing the culture in Baltimore County government so that it's one that works for you and works for the people that pay taxes here.
Okay. Last question I'll ask is, where do you see the future of Baltimore County considering all the various cuts the state of Maryland is going to have to deal with, and cuts the state of Maryland has to deal with always funnels down to counties. It's just the way it rolls. So how do you deal with what could happen considering right now the situation we're in Washington as far as the fact that there is no budget deal yet?
Right, right. Yeah, well, and being serving on appropriations for 8 years in the Maryland General Assembly, and for multiple cycles, recognizing the unique negative impact that a shutdown, but also federal cuts have on the state of Maryland because we rely so heavily on federal investment, federal workers, and federal departments that reside inside of Maryland. Uh, trickling down to Baltimore County, and for the last 2.5 years serving as the chair of the Spending Affordability Committee, recognizing the our expectations and our best projections for where we're going as a county, where we will factor in what's coming from the feds and coming from the state. We are still in we're still are decently growing from year to year. When I say in the sense of revenue, the good thing is from a perspective of where our revenue comes from, property values keep increasing, which I think folks will, from year to year, be concerned that they might end up paying more at the end of the year because the property value has gone up in their homes, which is a good thing because it hasn't decreased, which is consistently tied to our revenue as a county. We don't project that going the other direction, which means we can plan 3, 4, 5 years out. And serving on the committee, being able to see that while we don't have stagnant growth in terms of our revenues, we want to increase it because it's not nearly as strong as some other jurisdictions that surround us. But we are in a good position related to the fact that people want to live here, the property value that we do have and we have to offer in terms of infrastructure, to then meet the needs of the next 8 to 10 years, while also trying to think outside the box for new revenue generators. So I think that making Baltimore County more accessible for folks that want to live here, thinking outside the box for how we fund these programs that Baltimore County currently takes advantage of, finding other resources, not just from the federal government and not just from the state, but from the resources we have within the county, and some of the businesses and organizations that consistently want to see more and want to do more, and partnering with them to, one, expand their businesses, but also bring folks in that would benefit the entire region.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time to do this, and
Thank you, John.
have a good day and good luck on the campaign trail.
Thanks, sir.